Hi guys, and welcome to my summer car, a simulator slash survival game in which you have to build this car. This is the main goal of it as far as I can see so far. So what we've got is an empty shell, okay, and we've got to build the engine out of every tiny little part you could possibly think of. This is our garage here, and we've got all these bits on the shelf, all these bits relating to the engine, suspension, pretty much everything we need to do from scratch. And then in the top left you can see we've got like hunger meters and stuff like that, which is where the survival element of the game comes from. So I've messed about with the game a little bit just to work out kind of what I'm doing. So we'll look at the first thing we'll do is start building the engine. So that is the engine block. That's the engine block, so we're going to start there. And I'm doing this kind of from memory because I've had a quick go at putting things together already. So what you do is hover them in place, you get that tick, you bang them into where they need to go. But then it's not just a case of clipping it together, we've got to fix things in place. So we've got these bearings, main bearings. Sometimes it's a little bit fiddly and you have to kind of move it around until you get that tick like that. Perfect. And as you'll see, once we put these on, you've got to use tools to make sure everything is secured in place. So those are the three bearings on that are going to hold the crankshaft in place. Now we're going to need a particular size. Oh, see if I can get rid of this paint out of the way. We're going to need a particular size spanner. I'm going to move stuff around a little bit just to get my tools closer to where I want to go. So put them like there. That's perfect. We can switch to tool mode and pick up one of the spanners. You do have to take a guess. There's no... Oh, there we go. Perfect first time. There's no guidance on it. And then, you know, not that it really matters to you guys, but I use the mouse wheel to screw them in, which is pretty cool because obviously they actually kind of move at the speed that you turn your mouse wheel. So that's a pretty cool little feature. So yeah, first of all, crankshaft, screw that into place. And then we'll look at the next piece that we're going to do. I think for now that's that. So we can turn it back over now it's bolted in place. And we can look at putting the pistons in. So those are here. I'll just move them over to the desk in the first instance so I can play with them. And these go in the top of the engine, and then they have to secure it underneath. So this is the next thing. A bit of a disclaimer: if you guys are planning on using this as any kind of guide, I have no idea whether this will work or not. This is just what I've gathered from playing the game so far, of how the pieces kind of slot together. There are some bits in this game where it will kind of let you fail. So, for instance, you could put the engine together. Why isn't this clipping into place? Why isn't it clipping into place? Because there's already one in there. Okay, perfect. You could put the engine together without the head gasket, which is this piece here. And I don't know what effect it would have in the game, but I can only imagine the same effect that it would have in a real car, which is not a good one. So we've got to screw these on now. I think that's at least one smaller, so let's go for a smaller spanner. I was going to say screwdriver, yep, smaller. And we can screw these bits on here. And this is like securing the pistons to the crankshaft. So some of this is just me kind of having messed about to see what clips in where. I'd say it's kind of 80% that, and 20% I know a little bit about car engines, just from having, you know, serviced my own car and stuff like that. And I've also looked at a couple of diagrams of what like a carburetor engine should look like, because that's what this is. Just to kind of have an idea about where certain parts might go. So that's the pistons in place. So the next thing we could do is drop on the head gasket before we forget about that, because obviously, as we explained, that's really important. That stops the fuel from mixing with the water and whatever. Right, okay. And then on top of that would go the cylinder head. So that goes on top there, and it will just click in place. And then we're again going to need a bigger spanner. I think it's going to be bigger still. It is a shame that there's no guide to kind of what size spanner you might need, because there is a lot of just kind of trial and error. You can see I'm going for an even bigger one still. And sometimes, like, I didn't quite catch it with the one I needed. See, this is where it's a bit annoying. So I've gone through every spanner there. Is it smaller? Was it the one I had? No. could it be a smaller? Yeah, it was a smaller spanner. So I completely misestimated that. I don't know if that's even a word, but I was convinced that would have been a larger spanner required, but it was a smaller one. So it'd be nice if there was a bit of guidance or a bit of a clue as to what size spanner you needed for what bolts. But we have to trial and error it, and it doesn't actually take too long. So we'll get these bolts put in, and then the next part. I'm testing my memory here because I didn't make any notes. I just played the game for an hour and messed about with it. So the next piece that I put on was the rocker shaft even, sorry, which just drops on top of there, and that's again some spannering that needs doing. Yep, they were bigger that time, so I took a guess at that being one bigger, and it was, so that's pretty cool. This gets bolted down, so yeah, I'm trying to kind of remember to check for bolts every time you put stuff together, because if you miss them, I don't know what's going to happen later on, but I imagine it's probably going to have a knock-on effect when we actually try and drive the car eventually. I think now I've done that, I can put the rocker cover on, and I think we need a bigger spanner again. I just jumped one, didn't I? Did I? No. Bigger still. Next one. Oh, I wish this was easier. Okay, so it was smaller, so again I need to start making assumptions like that, because I don't think that the actual size of the box really portrays what spanners needed for them. It kind of feels like they've just taken each bolt and assigned it a random value and then made it be that spanner that fits it. There doesn't really seem to be much rhyme or reason to it. So that is the rocker head on, and that's kind of us done with the top of... Why isn't it screwing in? That's interesting. Oh no, it is. It was just a bit sticky. Okay, that's pretty much just done with the top of the engine there. So the next thing we will look at doing is working on one of the sides, I think. So let's work on this side here. This is where the camshaft goes, and you'd have your timing belt and all that kind of stuff. So the first thing we need to do is get the camshaft. That just slots into there like that. Again, we need to secure that. I was going to take a guess that we'd need a smaller spanner for that, because it's kind of a small thing. Maybe it's the smallest that's required. No. No. So again, I'm going through all the spanners, trying to find the one. So you'd imagine that these would be like really small bolts. It can't be any bigger than this. No, this is getting out of control now. This is such a small thing. Well, I'll try the biggest one just so I've done it. So I've obviously missed something somewhere along the way. No. 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 It was the small one. I'm sure I tried the small one, it didn't fit, but there you go. Right, that can be screwed in. Okay, cool. Right, the next thing we're going to want is the camshaft gear, which is here. Camshaft gear is here. So we can put this on. Click. That has one big bolt to bolt it in place. So I may as well just try this, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be one of the bigger ones. So let's just start from the fourth one down, because... You know, I'm doing this thing again where I'm like, oh yeah, it's bound to be a bigger one, but I bet it's just like a normal size one again. Yep, that one, it was kind of a medium sized thing. Right, so that's bolted on now. We should be able to now fit the timing belt, or I think it's actually a chain, which is down there. Crouch. That should just clip on between the gear and the crankshaft. So yeah, that's that bit done. I'm not sure if we can put the cover on now. I think we probably can. I can't remember if this is the right thing to do or not, but I'm pretty sure that can go on. don't think we needed to do anything else there yet. No, that seems to have its own bolt, so yeah, that should be fine. Let's get our spanner back out. It's the wrong size, of course, so let's kind of go down first. Looking for the right size. Yep, that's that one. Yeah, so we put this cover on. You have to do things in a certain order. For instance, one of the next things we're going to put on, well, I don't know if it's the next, but one of the things we're going to be putting on soon is the oil pan. And if you don't put that on first, you can't get the cover on because it kind of overlaps this cover, if you get what I mean. So, you know, there's probably going to be some trial and error here in terms of having to go back, undo things, make some alterations and put it back together and all that kind of stuff. So we're kind of done with that side of the engine for now. Oh, I know what we can put on while we're here. The water pump goes on there, so we may as well chuck that on. It goes in that gap there, okay? So yeah, while we were there, we may as well do that. So we'll go bigger. Yep, perfect. So we can fix that in place. And then there's a pulley that goes over the top of that. So we can put that on. And then the last thing that we're going to need is the alternator. For this kind of side of the engine is the alternator. So we may as well just completely finish off this side now. So if we grab the water pump pulley, that just slots over the top of that. And we can screw it in. Same spanner, which is convenient. So we can get that fixed on like that. Excellent. And I think the next thing that we want is the alternator. Now, I'm not sure if I put it on in this order last time, so this could cause some problems, but this clips on just one of the places in the engine next to the... This might not go on yet, it might need some other stuff in place before it'll fix on. I think maybe it bolts onto the headers or something, so we'll put that to one side because we are going to need that shortly, but not just yet. So if we spin this thing around, okay, we can start working on the other side of it. In fact, at this point, I think we can probably put the oil pan on because we're going to need the engine cover, and that's going to go, I believe it's going to cover up the oil pan a little bit, yeah. So, actually, I'm not 100% sure if that's the right thing to do. Let's just try this. We'll clip it in place, but not actually bolt it on. So the oil pan goes on the bottom of the engine, like that, and the engine cover, the engine plate, goes on this side here. Yeah, so that's fine. So we'll get this bolted together, and then we'll go from there. Let's see. Fingers crossed I've got the right spanner. Yes, got the right spanner equipped. Excellent. So yeah, I'm going to hit some dead ends with this, I'm sure. But right now, I'm kind of remembering pretty well where everything goes. Like I say, I don't know if that's going to mean that this thing actually works afterwards. But we can just try our best. The plan is... Can I put this on its head now, do you think? Yeah, that kind of balances and makes it easier. The plan is to just do a few episodes, kind of working through things like this, and eventually look at getting the car running. There is some other stuff to do in the game, like finding shops and things like that, but for now, whilst I know I can work pretty quickly on this, my hunger's okay. I know I can refill that at least once because there's some sausages in the house. That will need tightening up. That will need tightening up, and that's going to probably be... Should we try the biggest one? Because, no. Hang on. No. Again, I've assumed that it was... yep, it's quite big, but it didn't need the biggest one. Right. That can be screwed in. So that's where all that oil sits, so that the crankshaft is constantly getting lubricated. So we've done that part, and now we can work on this side of the engine. So onto there goes the flywheel. I thought, seems like it just would rather drop onto the floor though. Okay, that goes on there like that, and we need to screw that in, so we're going to have to find the right spanner for that. Let's see if we can just turn this around to face us, just to make our lives a little bit easier when selecting tools. That probably wasn't the right way to do it. We'll flip it around like that, and we will select a smaller spanner, I think. Right, we need to find out which one this is. No. I'm messing with bolts inside, but no. Is it going to be the smallest one? No, that's the one. Okay, cool. It's probably easy to crouch down and do this quickly. So yeah, this piece goes together, then the clutch stuff goes onto here, and then gearbox goes on top of that. There's a lot of other stuff to do in the meantime. We want to get most of the engine together before we start putting the gearbox on there, because that does actually restrict you quite a bit in terms of what you can reach. That needs to go on the other side. I actually forgot about that, so we'll come back to that in a minute. This clutch thing kind of goes together into one piece, and then that goes onto the flywheel, and it's got bolts around the outside that need putting in. We need to choose the spanner again, so let's go smaller first. The phone's ringing. It's a guy, like from playing through, it's a guy and he kind of offers you a job, like he wants you to take him firewood. I ran around a bit and I can't for the life of me figure out how you're supposed to do jobs in this game, so for now we are going to ignore the phone. I'll try and remember to turn the volume down on it a little bit in editing so that it's not too annoying going off in the background. But yeah, we are just going to ignore that for now. Right, that's bolted in place. We were then just having a bit of a think about whether there was anything that needed to go on before we put the gearbox in place, anything I've forgotten about. We'd got the clutch plates and things on, but we're just making sure there wasn't anything missing. And then remembered that the starter did need to go on next to the flywheel and the clutch, because that's what's going to get the whole thing started once it's up and running. So that clipped on right next to the flywheel, and eventually we managed to find the right spanner to fix it in place. Okay, here we picked up the gearbox and tried to find a way to fix it onto the engine, in the process knocking the engine off the table onto the ground. But we managed in the end to fix the gearbox onto the engine whilst it was on the ground. Okay guys, that was all that we did in this episode. Decided to bring it to an end there and look at finishing off the engine in the next episode. If you've enjoyed the video, please do leave a like and subscribe to my channel, as that's what's going to let me know whether you guys like this thing, and that's really what lets me know what kind of videos to make, so I can put stuff out that you guys actually want to watch. Thanks for watching anyway, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Peace.